Okay, folks, this was the sprint view review that was supposed to happen, and I'm going to send it out to people so they can understand. This is the running of the NodeCrowd project. I Skyped out the location. It's under dhagen NodeCrowd on GitHub. And this is on Jeff's machine, which is on 193. The URL here is 10.255.233.193, and the port is 8095. That's the crowd installation. So as you see here, there are a limited number of users here, and I'm going to go ahead and run the create all script, which actually populates all the users. As you can see, populates all the users, and then finds these groups, and then creates the groups, and then puts those users into these groups, and then you can see this reports who's in the group everyone, and this reports who's in the admin groups. So this is that startup script that was supposed to be demoed on Monday. In here is the settings file, and if you put this to debug, it shows, you turn this flag on to debug, and it will show the REST calls, and I think that's useful for everybody, and that's why I'm advocating the use of this. So in here you see that, okay, if you wanted to delete, if you want to do a delete of this group, you call the method delete. This is the port number. This is the authentication. We're going to go over that in a minute. This is the method, and then this is the endpoint, the URL endpoint, and then these are the headers that have been set. And this is important for Crowd because Crowd, I think, was older, and you need to specify JSON. So over XML, I think it gives XML by default. So this is like a self-document. I feel like this is some self-documented curl. Part of some of the stuff that you would need in the curl, namely the authentication, the endpoint, and some of the headers that need to be set. And if you're doing a post, there's going to be post data in here. If you're doing a get, of course, there's just going to be the endpoint URL. So that's the mode that I think will be most helpful for other people to follow this, and it's just showing on what's going on behind the scenes. So set the settings.js file to debug. We're going to go over that in a sec. But first of all, I deleted them all. So let's just go ahead and create them all again. And then we're going to refresh this page here. And this is the Crowd console, of course, again on Jeff's Crowd machine. And there it's all populated, pre-populated. And then one important thing here is I've created this Crowd client. You must have an application that has a user and password. The application has to have a password. So this is the gotcha of Crowd, is that Crowd does not use the Crowd authentication. You have an application, and so you come in as this Crowd client. So I think Jeff and Clint are familiar with this, but just so everyone else knows, you need to create an application user, and so that happens to be Crowd client. So that is that application user right here that you see, Crowd client. So that's a detail of creating with RESTful calls backend using Node, and also seeing what's happening here in the UI. And then the groups will have the two different base groups, and then who's in this group, and then you see the members in that group. So, and then if we run cleanup, this will all be deleted. So the next portion of this walkthrough is going to be just the code a little bit. So I'm jumping over to the actual project. This is the settings file. We went over the URL, and we went over the debug flag. And then this was kind of how I bootstrapped it. So I started with an example, which was the most basic, the most basic case, which was, just the simplest code. And then you can delete a user, you can delete groups, you can delete all. So kind of ramped up from starting from starting from, being able to create one user, and then when we create one group, and then put users into groups. So if you want to do one, if you want to just run one, if it's too confusing to run create all, you could conceivably just run this to create a single user or delete a single user, or just do the users part, not do create all the users groups and stick all the groups in the users. So that's if you're interested in how the code was ramped up, or if you're interested in like maybe running less intrusive, if there's too much spew. Basically, if there's too much spew or you don't understand what's going on. And then the only special sauce in here is that because all these calls are RESTful calls, there's asynchronous, so I had to kind of do some stuff to create the users first, and then make sure that all those are done, and then create the groups, and then add the users to groups, and then add the users to group 11, the other group. So this is a artifact of the fact that Node is asynchronous for most part, and that we're using RESTful calls. So we'll have to do some monkeying around with these each series in the library and the waterfall, basically using waterfall to loop over these arrays of users and then populate them. So that's it. And then under the data, if you wanted to change the data, this is where the data is hard coded from. So there's no rocket science here. Conceivably, I think this probably could be a database somewhere somehow, but for now it's just hard coded. Okay, kind of a lengthy video, but I think it's important. Hopefully, one last thing is on the URLs is that the admin password here is admin, and then the INN eco 2.0. So that's for the application for this endpoint for the Crowd Console. And likewise, similarly, you're logged in here as the dev user and same password to this endpoint, 10.255.233.193. So if you need to SSH, I know this is documented on Confluence, Quint documented some other places, but in case I don't want to trip up on that. Okay, that's it. Sorry for the long video. Bye.